All right, today we're going to bust one of the biggest, most common myths in retirement planning. And what we find might seriously change how you think about saving for your future. Okay, so let me hit you with a question that sounds, well, it sounds completely backwards. Could you actually have more spending money in retirement, even with a lower income? I know it sounds crazy, but the answer is a surprising yes. So let's dive in and see exactly how that works. We're about to get into a surprising truth about retirement math, and it's one that kind of flips all the conventional wisdom right on its head. It really shows why a lot of people might be saving way more than they need to, just out of fear. You've heard this a million times, right? You need 80% of your pre-retirement income. It's the go-to advice. Financial planners have been saying it for decades. Make 100 grand, you'll need 80 grand. Simple. But what if that whole rule is just wrong? And here's the big problem. That 80% rule, it makes one single critical mistake. It compares your gross income before you retire to the gross income you think you'll need after. And trust me, that comparison is incredibly misleading. So let's really break down where this rule goes completely off the rails. Understanding this one flaw is the absolute key to planning smarter and probably with a whole lot less anxiety. Okay, this is the most important concept to get. We don't live on our gross income, right? We live on our net spendable income. This is the money that actually, hits your bank account. It's your take-home pay, the cash you have for groceries, your mortgage, all of it. After taxes, savings, and all those other deductions are ripped out. This is the only number that truly matters for your lifestyle. Yeah, this really shows the difference perfectly. That big number on the left, your gross income, think of that as the entire rain cloud. It's big, it's impressive, but you can't use all of it. The number on the right, your net spendable income, that's your reality. That's the actual water that ends up in the bucket for you to use. The goal isn't to replace the whole cloud, it's just to make sure your bucket stays just as full. All right, now for the fun part. Let's look at some real math for a hypothetical couple and see how this all plays out with actual concrete numbers. I'm telling you, this is where the magic happens. So we're going to compare two scenarios. First, we've got a working couple. They're earning $120,000 a year. Then we have a retired couple with an income of just $90,000. Now that's a $30,000 drop in gross income. You'd automatically assume they have less money to spend, right? Well, let's see about that. Okay, first up, the working couple. From their $120,000 salary, we've got to subtract federal and state taxes. Then comes a big one, payroll taxes for Social Security and Medicare. We also have to take out their 10% 401k savings. They're still saving, right? And of course, health insurance premiums. So after all that's said and done, their actual take-home spendable income is just under $77,000. See how much disappeared? Now, let's look at our retired couple. Their $90,000 income? It faces way lower taxes. And here's the kicker. No payroll taxes. Zero. And they're not contributing to a 401k anymore. So after they pay for their Medicare, their net spendable income comes to, wait for it, over $77,000. And here it is, the final result. I mean, look at that. Despite earning $30,000 less in gross income, the retired couple actually has over $500 more per year in spendable cash. They are literally better off financially with a smaller income. Isn't that wild? So how on earth is this even possible? Well, it's not magic. It's thanks to 5 kind of hidden financial levers that just start working in your favor the second you retire. And they make every single dollar you have stretch further. Okay, here they are. First, payroll taxes, they just vanish. Second, you stop saving for retirement and you start spending from it. Third, your tax deductions often go up. Fourth, a huge chunk of your Social Security income isn't even taxed. And finally, your health insurance costs are just structured completely differently. But let's just focus on the 2 biggest game changers here. First step, payroll taxes. You know that 7.65% for Social Security and Medicare that comes out of every single paycheck? Poof, it's gone. For our couple making $120,000, that is an instant raise of over $9,000, just money they no longer have to pay out. And second, you're not saving for the future anymore. You're living in it. That 10 or 15% you were so diligently putting into your 401k, that's no longer a deduction from your paycheck. It's now cash flow. For our couple, that's another $12,000 a year freed up for their actual lifestyle. So knowing all this, how can you actually apply it to your own life? Well, it's really about moving away from these vague rules of thumb and creating a concrete, personalized plan. And here's a super simple 5-step process to do just that. Okay, step 1, figure out your real take-home pay right now, your net spendable income. Then project what your retired take-home pay is going to look like using these different tax rules. The absolute key here is step 3, compare those two net numbers, net to net, not gross to gross. That's what gives you your true retirement target. And having that clarity lets you make smart tax moves and, most importantly, plan with confidence using real data, not some flawed, scary rule. Ultimately, this is the big takeaway. You do not need to replace your entire gross salary in retirement. You only need to replace your lifestyle. And your lifestyle is funded by your net spendable income. And that number is so much lower and so much more achievable than you probably think. So that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. When you finally stop working, what's the single biggest expense that's just going to disappear from your budget? Is it your mortgage, maybe commuting costs? Or hey, maybe it's the act of saving for retirement itself, right? Answering that question, that's your first step to finding your real number.